Washington, D.C. has been the holiday home for both Marshall and Maryland. Today, the scene shifts to Annapolis, home of the Naval Academy, a perfect locale for a stirring display of military pride. Today, the same field where Roger Staubach starred hosts two outstanding quarterbacks. Marshall's Rakeem Cato is one of the best passers you may not know, and few players are more important to their team than Maryland's C.J. Brown. When he went down earlier this year, the Terps did too. When he came back, so did Maryland. Today, the Terps and the Thundering Herd are ready to hoist anchor in Annapolis. We welcome you to the Military Bowl, presented by Northrop Grumman. Maryland's first bowl game of the Randy Edsall area, only a short drive from College Park. For Marshall, it's a chance for their first double-digit win season since 2002. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham. It's great to have you with us. Janine Edwards will join us shortly. For Maryland, this is the first bowl game under Randy Edsall, and they had to overcome massive injuries to get here, including their dynamic quarterback, C.J. Brown.
When we saw this team against Clemson, Maryland didn't have their starting quarterback, their starting running back, their starting tight end, and their two best receivers had broken their legs in the game before that. And they took Clemson deep into the third quarter. Well, then they got C.J. Brown back, and they got him back just in time. This team had slid to a three-game skid of losing. They went down to Virginia Tech against a very good Virginia Tech defense. Brown played like he had played in 2011. Remember, he tore his ACL last year and missed the year. But it was the defense that came up with a big sack, caused Virginia Tech to have to kick a field goal in the first overtime, and then Brown did this after review, the touchdown. That was the game that pushed them into the bowl game. And as you look at Maryland going forward to 2014, with Brown coming back, being granted an extra year of eligibility, I think this is a top 25 club going into the next season.
For Marshall, a win today would give them a 10-win season, and if they get it, it will be because of their terrific quarterback, Rakeem Cato. The last 2 years, he has just put up spectacular numbers.
And 5 wins last year. They could go to 10 this year, and a lot of it's because Cato is actually checking to the run more often. His numbers down after a year where he had to throw it a ton, but he is a defensive coordinator's worst nightmare. When he goes off script, the way Marshall has set up their offense, there are a lot of vertical routes. You beat the left tackle, you've got a sack. Well, no, Cato's athletic enough to come out of that to his left, but watch what he does. He sets up and launches the ball. Marshall, when you study them on tape, throw the ball deep as much or more than anybody in the country. And the bad news for a defensive coordinator, that's Gator Hoskins. He's a tight end. He can run like a wide receiver.
Often we look at bowl games as to who wants to be here more. I have to look at this game and say both of them do.
And for Maryland, it's really 2 years of injuries. You go back to last year, this was a Maryland team that was down to their 5th-string quarterback.
Who was a linebacker.
Who was a linebacker. Who'll be playing today on defense for Randy Edsall. A masterful job after Ralph Regin left. Things went to 2-10. They crept back with 4 wins last year. They could double their win total this year. With all the injuries, it's been a masterful job by Edsall.
It's a perfect day, by the way. I mean, it's in the 30s, close to 40. It's supposed to go up to around 42, 43 degrees later this afternoon. But a bright sunshine and very little wind. Watson and Reeves are deep for Marshall. And Brad Craddock will kick it away. He's had 12 touchbacks this year in 64 kickoffs. And we are underway in Annapolis. Taken at the goal line by Reeves. Has a hole up the middle and bursts through across the 30-yard line to the 31. William Likely made what looked like a saving tackle. Rakeem Cato of Marshall rewriting the record book, and that record book includes 2 pretty good guys, Chad Pennington and Byron Leftwich. He's got a chance to eclipse some of their records today. And he has put up spectacular numbers in his sophomore and junior seasons. They'll start with 5 wide receivers and Cato alone in the backfield. Watch Schuler, number 1, and Hoskins, number 26. Cato tries to take off, and he's sacked on the opening play of the game, taken down at the 29-yard line. Andre Monroe and Quentin Jefferson poured through that Marshall front wall.
Jefferson, a sophomore, coming on strong for this defense, coached by Brian Stewart, the defensive coordinator for Randy Edsall. Really impressive defensive coach. They've had their handful of issues with guys being injured. They've lost pass rushers, cornerbacks. They've been hurt by it as well.
Cato with time, and that is Schuler, and that is catch number 98 on the year. He's over 1,100 yards. Isaac Goins had a man-to-man and couldn't stop him, although he was close. Marshall loves the up-tempo. Cato, pump fake. Cato throws complete to the 41. Got it to Craig Wilkins. Going to be 3rd down and about 6 yards.
Well, and this is where, if you're Maryland, you better know where number 26, Gator Hoskins, is. He's lined up to the left. He's a mismatch. He's in the slot to the left, working on number 20, Anthony Nixon.
Good protection this time. Throws sideline. Contact before the ball got there. That should be a penalty, and it will be. Schuler was covered by Likely, and Likely got there a step too soon.
Awfully close. If Likely jumps to play this ball instead of running through the man, in my eye, this was the right call. But Likely clearly goes to play the receiver instead of the ball.
Pass interference. Defense. Number 4. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
Likely the man that young man that Janine mentioned had to step up with Dexter McDougal out for the season. Jeremiah Johnson's just coming back, but clearly not making a. You don't have to make a play on the ball, but if he jumps to try to play this and there's that contact, I don't know that they call it, but because he runs and is hitting the receiver Schuler before the ball got there, I think that's the correct call.
Dan Romeo is the referee of our Mountain West crew for this ball game. High snap. They get it to Taliaferro inside the 20. Taken down by L.A. Gorey and Quentin Jefferson.
One of the things that Rakeem Cato does, and it's not every quarterback can do this, he has a choice on every single play, either a run or a pass or 2 passes in one. And Cato, they said the one thing he's done this year with the offense is he understands it. Last year he knew it. Now he understands it. Makes a lot of run checks.
Taliaferro dives inside the 15-yard line. Michael Selby, the left guard, Conference USA all-freshman team, was leading the way.
And last year it really was all pretty much. They averaged 169 rushing, not terrible, but it was really through the arm and receiving of Schuler and Hoskins. But now, because of the understanding of Cato and counting and understanding where the run fits are better on the offense, calling a lot more runs.
Straight up the middle to the goal line. Taliaferro, touchdown. His 10th rushing touchdown of the season. And he's doing it in front of the home folks. He was a local product out of DeMatha.
Well,
looked like his knee was down.
Now the problem is that angle is on the player side. The camera's on the player side of the end line. I think this might be the better angle to see. Again,
the call on the field is a touchdown, so that will prevail if they don't find convincing evidence to overturn it.
After further review, the runner's knee was down prior to the ball breaking the plane. The ball be placed at the half-yard line. 1st and goal, Marshall.
I'm with you, Mike. I think you let that one stand. It was within an inch or two either way, but I just didn't see indisputable video evidence. That was a touchdown.
We've had several of these calls this year where you can't complain. I mean, you can't really get upset if they go one way or the other.
Yeah. And again, the point here is Marshall still gets the ball 1st and goal inside the 1. So get 3 or 4 plays to try to score.
Cato looks, throws, completes to Tommy Schuler. Touchdown, Marshall. 99 catches, 10 touchdowns for Schuler. Schuler or Hoskins are the last 2 guys on the field that should be that open.
Well, they had two receivers to that side. Both receivers worked together. Defensive backs crossed up, and Schuler was standing wide open. Schuler and Cato with such a great relationship. But going back to school kids, they were out throwing the football around together down in South Florida.
You know, the pick play has become an art form with wide receivers. And it's 7-0. The thundering herd of Marshall with the lead. And Rakeem Cato, his 37th touchdown pass of the year. The school record's 39. Chad Pennington, Byron Leftwich, Rakeem Cato, the top three quarterbacks that have ever played for Marshall. And Cato has just tied Leftwich for #2 all-time in career touchdown passes. Not going to catch Chad Pennington, at least not this year, but
but if he's healthy next year,
he'll catch it.
With Schuler. We went back and looked at that route. It actually wasn't a pick route. It was just Schuler working one-on-one, but the relationship.
There's Byron.
Yeah.
Had a good NFL career. Had a great career at Marshall.
But I think the guy on the right is going to pass both he and Pennington next year. And I think Cato's a guy with some of these huge numbers. If Marshall can get into the conversation late, undefeated, he might be a guy that starts getting talked for Heisman because the numbers will be so crazy.
Curry puts it out of the end zone. Maryland will have to go from the 25. Being a fullback's a lot of fun if you don't mind being a battering ram. Ross trying to get to the outside, slipped one tackle. Will pick up about 4 yards. Taken down by Darryl Roberts.
You talk about the depth issues that Randy Edsall has had to deal with in the last 2 seasons.
Unbelievable.
We mentioned they went through 4 quarterbacks last year, ended up converting a redshirt freshman linebacker who played some option quarterback. And they were the talk of the coaching community. There were a lot of people we'd visit with saying, what's going on at Maryland? How do they even have an offense at the end of the year?
And they gave Clemson all it could handle. Brown in trouble. Throws as he goes down and completes it to Edatawa. Heck of a job by C.J. Brown on the way to the ground as Corey Tyndall had him wrapped up. He found Edatawa for 16 yards.
This is big. You get these extra 15 practices. Edatawa, a guy who wasn't playing as much when Diggs and Long were healthy. A little bit dangerous there going down throwing that. But Edatawa had found a hole there in the middle. And this young freshman, Edatawa, is starting to become a big player with Diggs and Long out.
A single back is Ross. Brown gives it to Jacobs on the fly sweep. And Jacobs out of bounds at the 30. When we did that Clemson game and Maryland was missing all those offensive players, they were also missing both of their starting corners and a couple of linebackers. I mean, I was wondering before the game it wasn't going to be 89-0.
And here's a team that dismissed maybe their best running back before the season for breaking team rules in Wes Brown. So it's really amazing what they've done with their personnel groupings in and out.
Fake to Ross. Brown hit as he throws, got it to Jacobs. Laverne Jacobs, touchdown. Boy, nice series for C.J. Brown. Saved one play as he was falling and then hung in under pressure and threw a strike to Laverne Jacobs, who has become his favorite receiver after the loss of Diggs and Long.
Brown knew he was going to get hit and still transferred his weight. That ball had plenty of zip on the way to Jacobs. Nice throw.
Craddock for the point after.
One of the things we talked to Mike Loxley, the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, he said C.J. Brown's a good runner. He has a good arm. He's really worked on his mechanics. He knew he was going to get popped right in the mouth by Darryl Roberts, but he still delivered a strike. C.J. Brown's starting to grow and has another year to go.
Jacobs with the touchdown catch, and his effort along with C.J. Brown have tied the military ball at 7 between Marshall and Maryland.
Well, as Maryland gets ready to leave the ACC for the Big Ten, everybody wondering how they're going to be able to compete. Of course, they got the tough draw in the East: Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much. But you see what Randy Edsall has done and what they're going to bring back next year, including C.J. Brown, and they get those receivers, Diggs, back. They also get another receiver back in Marcus Leak, who has tremendous speed. I think they're going to compete very well.
Well, look
right out of the gate.
UConn. He started from absolutely nothing, working out of a trailer. Short kick taken by Reeves. Room to run up the middle again, and Reeves crosses to 30. Cato in the gun. And hands it off to Remy Watson, getting a chance to play the tailback spot. Only 24 carries all year for Watson, but obviously one thing he brings to the position is speed.
There's Cato again. Every play he's checking read or pass. He's seeing the numbers in the run game.
Sets and throws strong, complete. Wilkins makes his second grab before he's finally driven back, picks up 8 or 9 yards. Here's Janine.
Well, guys, the Maryland offense have stepped up. Now it's time for the defense. And defensive coordinator Brian Stewart has not been happy with confusion that he's seeing and a lack of communication. He said, guys, you have got to echo the call. Every single player. Don't come off the field and tell me you didn't know what the call was. And he wants them to do a better job executing their pressure.
Cato changing the play, and they're trying to do it, Janine, with 4 down linemen. This time they bring 5. They don't get there, and Cato with a beautiful touch pass to Frohnapple. We've seen him set and gun it. That time he just floated it perfectly into Eric Frohnapple's hands.
He is a very varied thrower. He can throw it on a line. He lofts it this time. Frohnapple, it was all pressure. They had one-on-one. Waited for a second, had Frohnapple over the middle. That's a nice, easy throw. Plus, you know your tight end's running away from the defender. If you can lead him a bit, that could be 6. Nice throw, though, by Cato on that throw.
That's the danger of the blitz. If you don't get there, it creates problems. They blitz again. The pass goes underneath to Devin Johnson, and the third-string tight end takes it to the 15-yard line, close to another first down.
You know, a coaching staff's doing a good job recruiting when they have a guy like Gator Hoskins, who's an NFL tight end, and Devin Johnson has come on and looks like he's just going to take the reins at tight end. And we already saw Frohnapple. You go 3 deep at the tight end position. That's hard to defend for anybody, but Maryland especially right now struggling in their man-to-man.
Second down and inches, and now a first down inside the 5 is Remy Watson. Barrels down deep into Maryland territory.
Maryland looks like a defense confused right now, and it looks like Brian Stewart's trying to simplify, trying to go to some man coverage, but right now everything looks easy for Marshall. The way the ball is spread, Maryland's tempting a run here.
Cato, touchdown. Hoskins wide open in the back of the end zone. He has shown us everything in his repertoire, and he is on fire.
Came out a little shaky, but that right there, that was a complete read by the quarterback. Did you see those linebackers starting to come up to play the run? He puts it right over their head to Hoskins.
An impressive drive by Rakeem Cato. Showed you arm strength, the ability to read a defense, and great touch. Can't ask much more. Laid it into Hoskins for the touchdown. 14-7, the Thundering Herd. It's been an exciting first quarter here in the Military Bowl. Marshall has taken a 14-7 lead, and this one barely catches the corner of the end zone for another touchback, and Maryland will start at the 25-yard line. Ross is the tailback. They moved the ball well in the last series against the Terps, or against the Thundering Herd, and Ross will pick up 5 here. Corey Tyndall made the stop. The nickelback, who was the co-freshman of the year with Tulane's Nico Marley, and we saw him a week ago. He's a heck of a player.
You share an honor with Nico Marley.
Pretty good.
Yeah, looks like he makes every tackle for Tulane, 180-pound linebacker. But Tyndall, a guy who, Chuck Heater, the defensive coordinator, who's been some big places, Florida, Washington, said he could have played anywhere for him.
Read option, Brown on the keep. He's out to the 35, and that'll do it for the first quarter. Marshall with the advantage over the Terrapins of Maryland, 14-7 from here in Annapolis. Maryland from its 35-yard line, down 14-7. Another read option, Brown with a keep. You can always tell whether it's a read option or a straight handoff because the ball stays in a running back's stomach for a long time, and the quarterback's still holding it.
And that's one thing they've gone to more and more in this offense. C.J. Brown, he's a guy, he's not super fast, he's not super quick, he's kind of tall and lanky, but he just has that slippery ability, and he also is a terrific ball handler. So Mike Loxley, the offensive coordinator, going to more and more actual zone reads because Brown is so good at that ball handling.
Brown with good protection, throws wide open. Holy cow, Annapolis was standing out there by himself, and I think he was really concerned about dropping a pass in that situation. The first thing he did was make sure he had it, and he made sure twice.
Well, A.J. Leggett, the safety to that side, lets Annapolis go, but there was a deep route to the far side, and it was because of good protection. Yeah, it was almost like a fair catch. But you've got to catch it first. But a good read by C.J. Brown because the safety on the other side had been run off.
Fly sweep to Jacobs, and Jacobs tripped up on an outstanding tackle by A.J. Leggett. Back on that last catch, it was like, I got it? Yeah, I got it. Okay, now I can run again.
Every receiver will tell you the hardest catch is when you're wide open, the ball's in the air for a while, and you know the defense is closing.
You have time to think about it. You don't need that.
I'm not sure how much defense we're going to see this afternoon the way these two quarterbacks are playing.
Boy, that's for sure. Read option again. Jacobs, a lot of room to run inside the 10. That was beautifully executed.
And Jacobs, a guy who stepped up. We mentioned the last drive for Maryland with Stephon Diggs and Deion Long, their two best receivers, hurt, both with broken legs, coincidentally against Wake Forest. Diggs was a guy, we saw Jacobs in that Clemson game go for over 150 yards at a 71-yard touchdown on a really easy throw down the middle where he just outran the middle safety for Clemson. So a guy they're getting more involved in the package.
Now send Ross in motion. Four-man rush, and the pass too high for Annapolis, covered by Darryl Roberts.
You know, you think field goal here, but the way Marshall's been playing offensively, I know it's 4th and 7, but I wouldn't be so sure if Maryland wouldn't try a fake or something here. It feels like Marshall may score every time they go out on the field. I know it's early in the ball game, but
I want to see you get an offensive coordinator job because I know you don't want to punt. Now you don't want field goals. You're going to score a lot of points, or you're not going to score any.
Or I'm going to get fired halfway through the season.
That's it. Craddock with a field goal try, chip shot, 25-yard effort is good. And the Terps cut the lead to 4.
Well, that last throw there by C.J. Brown just missed it, was going for the fade, but had to settle for 3.
If you just joined us, 14-10, Marshall over Maryland. Reeves. This time's cut down at the 26-yard line.
0-1. 0-1.
Really impressed by Cato. Fires to a wide open Hoskins. And if Maryland is trying to double cover Hoskins or Schuler, they're not doing a very good job of it because they've been open a lot.
There is a lot of confusion. That time Matt Robinson again, who's now walking out again on Devin Smith. He was on Devin Smith and had no help. This is a linebacker. Now he's a former defensive back, but they're just taking advantage of that.
Well, they fit that throw in there somehow to Schuler. Really had to whistle that ball to make it complete. No, even though he's a former defensive back, now he's 240 pounds.
Yeah.
He can't keep up with a wide receiver.
And that time he was over covering Devin Smith, trying to do the same thing they were doing with Schuler and bumping him early. But I don't think that plan is working. I think you want to back off have secondary guys in there.
Cato again with time. And Schuler stopped that time.
Yeah, that looked like a miscommunication.
Not sure whether he stopped because he thought that was the pattern or he saw the safety.
I think he saw the safety. So here you go, 3rd and goal. This is 3rd and 7. Gator Hoskins is in the slot. This is your bigger body guy.
4-man rush this time. Cato takes off and taken down at the 10-yard line. Good play by Alex Twine. And this will bring the field goal unit on.
And that time Maryland had Gator Hoskins covered very well. That's exactly where Cato was going, and the coverage was much better. Really, for the first time, it looked like Maryland had all the routes cleanly covered on that 3rd and 7.
Really, you can't double cover everybody, but when you're double covering someone, it should look like you're double covering someone. This will be a 27-yard try from Haig. And Marshall regains a 7-point advantage. Military Bowl in Annapolis. It is a 7-point ball game. The Thundering Herd in charge. 30-40 minutes down Route 50 from Annapolis. It's our nation's capital, and all those incredible monuments. If you've never been, do yourself a favor and go. Both Ed and I have spent a lot of time up here. It's worth it every trip. Likely on the return. Big hole up the middle and caught from behind at the 25-yard line. Likely nearly had a huge return. Stephon Houston, the freshman linebacker, made a saving tackle.
Janine Edwards was talking about the impact Likely had on defense and then starting to do it on special teams as well. Houston, one of the guys that we talked about that Marshall has added with good speed, a true freshman linebacker. If he doesn't close that gap and make the tackle, I think that's a touchdown for Maryland.
And Ross is going to have to be the workhorse because Reed is hurt. Brown on the keeper. Up to the 30.
And this is where this offense can start to become very dangerous, especially when they start to get their full complement receivers back. As good as they've gotten, as much depth as they have out at their receiver spots, as C.J. Brown comes back next year, the availability of a run-pass threat with a guy with another year getting better in the pocket, it's going to be an awfully difficult offense to defend next season.
People should remember that Diggs and Long were on their way to all-star caliber seasons when they got hurt. Little pitch to Ross. Nice decision by Brown. Gary Thompson makes the tackle for Marshall. Clock continues to run. 3:24 and counting, first half. Brown in trouble. Flushed. Directing traffic. Stops. Throws it up for grabs, and it's caught at the 30. Laverne Jacobs. Taekwon Lang got turned around, had trouble finding the ball, and Jacobs found it.
Well, as C.J. Brown breaks out of the pocket, Jacobs goes back. Because there's two guys there, wisely Jacobs goes to get the separation. And here goes Maryland going fast.
Ross to the 20. Usually the rule is whoever's run a short pattern goes long, whoever's run deep comes back, and they did that very, very well.
Absolutely. Good job by Laverne, and here goes Maryland going fast again. Feel like they have Marshall on their heels.
Yeah, Jacobs in the slot to the far side. That's where they're going to throw. Jacobs flanker screen. Room to run, picks up about 8 yards before it's touched by anybody. Driven out of bounds. Had Daniel Adams out there, who was the widest of the wide receivers, blocking for him.
Well, you know, you're sitting here at 2:42 to go in the half. Both teams with all 3 timeouts. And yeah, I think you have to start thinking, if you're Marshall, not that it's a foregone conclusion that Maryland's going to score 7 here, but you may want to start, if you're Marshall, thinking about those timeouts to save him for Rakeem Cato in that offense.
Ross. driven back as he reached the line of scrimmage. He was drilled by Corey Tyndall.
And if I'm Maryland, we've seen them. We saw them against Clemson. Huddle, take their time. I'm not so sure I'd be in a huge rush here. If I were Maryland, with 3 timeouts, take your time, maybe force Marshall to use their timeouts. I know you want to keep the momentum and keep the lather, and there is a rhythm to this offense, but I'd be really happy letting this melt down, which it looks like they are.
First priority is to get that first down. Brown on the keeper, and he can't get it. He'll lose 4. What a great play by Alex Bazzi. And Brown needed to pitch that ball.
Well, I think that Brown got nervous because Bazzi gets in there so quickly. He goes right inside, and he's on Brown. I'm not sure why Brown looked like Brown had that ball cradled. It looked like he should have been able to get it out and flip there. I'm not so sure he handled the ball cleanly, but that's the second time that we've seen Bazzi, and we've seen at least 5 times where Maryland's offensive line has really struggled with the quick front of Marshall. This is exactly what we heard from Mike Loxley, the offensive coordinator for Randy Edsall, that they were concerned about.
And we'll check in with Janine.
Well, guys, you're in good hands when your personal kicking coach is the Baltimore Ravens legend, Matt Stover. The 4 things that Brad Craddock has learned from Stover: visualize, keep your hips back, your chest open, and keep your head steady. Let's watch.
Well, those tips have worked. He's 20 of 24. He's already hit a 25-yarder in this one. And this one's from 33 and good. So somewhere Matt Stover is smiling, as are Terrapin fans. Technique is what counts for kickers. DeAndre Reeves and Devon Smith are deep for Brad Craddock's kick. Reeves from the 4. And stopped at the 22-yard line.
You cannot. Schuler now lined up in the slot on the top.
Need about 7 or 8 for a first down. This pass, post underthrown, intended for Hoskins, thrown into triple coverage, and Robinson, the linebacker who was trailing the play, got a hand on it. He was the closest to it. That was an ill-advised throw. That was no way that was going to be complete.
But remember, Cato loved that matchup on the last drive with the linebacker walked out there, Matt Robinson. That was what Brian Stewart wanted, was to be a little more physical with these little receivers. That time Robinson did a nice job.
This time 3 wide receivers left to the wide side. Maryland has 3 defenders over there. Blitz coming. They'll throw back to the near side. And Craig Wilkins was knocked out of bounds. Good defensive play by Isaac Goins.
Goins just absolutely dominated the entire play. Talk about jam coverage. He jammed his receiver over to the sidelines. The receiver quit running, but Cato's got to see that jam and come off of that read. Now with 14 seconds and 3rd and 10, you have to have something beyond the sticks, and if you don't, you better be ready with that timeout. Still not quite in that field goal range.
Goins again, and again, Goins was out of bounds.
I have no idea why you would call the exact same route, the exact same play, unless you're trying to get a pass interference call on Goins. But that time, he took Wilkins, jammed him in the chest completely legally, and drove him out of bounds. The play before, you threw it to air because of Goins on the bottom of your screen. That's just completely legal, good defense. So the problem here is, if you get inside of 3 seconds, will you be able to get your field goal unit on to kick the ball, because they had to use that timeout? That was a mismanagement of clock there. If you knew you were going for it on 4th and 10, you're clearly outside of field goal range. You've just got to have that play ready. And now, if you get the first down, I would think Marshall needs to go up and spike it to ensure that they'll be able to bring their field goal unit on. But they may have to go really fast unless they get something near the sidelines and they get out of bounds.
9 seconds on the clock.
And there still seems to be a little confusion between the receivers and Cato.
Cato flushed. This will be the last play unless there's a penalty. He completes it over the middle to Taliaferro, but time has expired.
Boy, mismanagement. Just a complete mismanagement at the end on that 4th and 10. Marshall just losing that last time out and coming away with no points. All the world looked like Marshall was going to drive down and at least get a field goal try.
Let's go to Janine Edwards.
Coach, I've seen a lot of discussions and coaching going on with your defense in this first half. How are they being challenged the most so far?
Well, we're making some mistakes, and we're just not playing our fundamentals and our technique exactly the way we need to. We just got to get everybody just to do their job, and if we do that, we're okay. When we do that, we're fine. It's just a matter of, guys just taking care of their own business.
And on offense, you had told us that the zone reads and the quarterback run would be important in this game. How effective have you guys been so far?
It's been effective. We got a couple things, same thing. We got a couple pitches that we got to slow down a little bit on and pause a little bit more. But again, what we're doing is we're shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit offensively where we're not finishing. We got to be able to finish the drives for touchdowns.
Thanks for the time, Randy.
Thank you.
At the half, our score, Marshall 17, Maryland 13. Now we send you to Reese Davis for our halftime show. It is 17-13, Marshall over Maryland at the half. I don't know about you, Ed, but I sort of get the feeling that if Maryland's offense doesn't score a lot more points, they're in trouble because they can't seem to stop Marshall.
Unbelievable. Marshall only has 17 points. It feels like they should have 24 or 31. Of course, remember early on, Cato missed a couple of early throws, but for me, it's back on C.J. Brown. This is where Maryland's season has sat all year. During that 3-game skid, he was mostly hurt. He comes back against Virginia Tech and plays well. The read option, and then I think they have to get some read option pass off of that. Editamba, they also need to get Jacobs down the field. I think there's some guys that they can stretch the field with, but I think it's all through C.J. Brown on this drive, because if they don't get a score here, they're only down 3, but I get the feeling Marshall's not going to slow down on offense.
Maryland won the toss and deferred to the second half, so they'll get the ball first. Check in with Janine Edwards.
Well, guys, Marshall coach Doc Holliday knows better than to relax a little bit for this second half. He says the Terps are grinders. We've learned a lot about how salty that team is with all the injuries they've overcome this year. So he said despite the fact that his team is moving the ball really, really well, he said we better start doing a better job tackling, and we've got to clean up the penalties.
All right, Janine, thanks very much. This is likely on the return, and the freshman forced out of bounds near the 30-yard line. It's been a good day for both quarterbacks. Cato has thrown for 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. Brown has run well and completed only 6 of only 8 passes that he threw for 128 yards. So he has been very efficient. Brown on the option read to Ross. Turns the corner, 35. Stiff arms his way for about 4 yards.
These modern offenses with how much misdirection, ball handling, throwing, it's so much fun to watch and so hard to defend. That play had about 3 different directions built into it, and before you knew Ross had the ball, he already had the edge.
It's fun unless you're a defensive coordinator. Brown, nice fake. He crosses the 35 to the 36-yard line where Taekwon Lang makes the tackle.
Well, James Rouse was going to play the running back. Watch Rouse come in, make that tackle, and Brown, because he's holding it, reading it, able to pull it out and get to a 3rd and short. And this is another place where you could expect some type of read option with the quarterback, because it's 2 yards to gain the yardage necessary first. This could be a rundown.
So they'll bring Ross back in. Vay, not the greatest pass protector and not the greatest short yardage runner. So they have the option with Ross, and they'll give him the ball. Ross gets to the outside. First down and more. Midfield. Chased out of bounds at the 45.
And because Marshall they slid defenders over to the side of Ross. Look at the defenders. The linebackers are both set to the right of the formation of the offense. So where do they come back? They come back to the left side because the numbers were down. Good read by the quarterback.
Nice game for Ross. 16 carries, 110 yards. Brown after the fake to fade. Straight up the middle. And he's to the Marshall 35. And right now it looks like they found something. Corey Tyndall, who's back in the ballgame, made the stop.
It's kind of unbelievable Maryland could take the lead with this drive. It feels like Marshall should be up by about 14. But because Marshall cannot stick it in, and they've really struggled inside the 30, here comes Maryland.
They caught in the backfield, taken down for a yard loss. Bazzi again from his defensive end spot. The young man out of Silver Spring, Maryland.
There are a lot of players that go to Marshall from this area. And so for Bazzi, a senior, just playing his position, that's exactly how you play. When you're unblocked as a defensive lineman, stop. Something's coming your way.
Something's going on.
Do not run. That was a nice job by Bazzi there. Good read. Here's another zone read area. Long option, or maybe Brown up the middle.
Rouse back in the ballgame at left tackle. Ross runs right at him. Rouse hit him low and then got some help from 2 or 3 guys, and it's going to be 3rd and very short, or 4th and very short.
Yeah, and this is right on the edge of range for Brad Craddock, but I think this is a place with 4th and short. Just go straight ahead quick. Nice call.
Quarterback keeper, first down. You gotta like that play. You set up for you don't have to worry about the handoff. You go on a quick count.
And for Marshall, who's used to defending a hurry-up offense in practice because of their own, they weren't ready at all. 4th and short, you have to be ready for the quarterback sneak right away. And Maryland caught Marshall completely off guard. Look at the defensive linemen just getting their hands on the ground.
Well, I guess that was a pretty good spot.
Looks like he got it right to that yellow marker. Of course, our marker is not official. But did look like he got to it.
Brown back to the pistol, fakes to Ross. Goes out in the flat to Jacobs on the screen, and Jacobs wrestled out of bounds. Steinbaugh gave him a good block on the outside, and he picks up 6-7 yards.
Jacobs, it's starting to become obvious, is the guy that they want with the ball quickly. They're using him on jet sweeps now when he comes on motion, trying to set him up with more wide receiver screens.
He had 27 catches in the last 5 games coming into this one. Ross doesn't have a chance on this one as he's dragged down the line of scrimmage. Here's Janine.
Well, guys, and that's one thing that the Marshall defensive coaches have really been emphasizing, stopping those perimeter runs of Maryland and also really wrapping up on the running backs, especially Ross. He's just been slipping through way too many tackles, and the Maryland Terps are just getting way too many runs to the perimeter.
Janine, this will be the 14th play of this drive as Maryland bidding to take the lead. Brown takes off. Bazzi is there again. Bazzi's made 3 of the last 4 plays.
And right as Janine was talking about stopping the edge run, we saw Bazzi use his hands on the play before and knock the offensive tackle back. And that time he gets a sack. And for Maryland, this is right on the range for Craddock, and you're down 4. So I think this has to be 4th. They're going for it on 4th down. I think this is the right decision. 4th and 6. You got 3 receivers to the right. Don't be surprised if Brown moves out of the pocket here to his right.
Jacobs is the receiver in the slot. And they look for Jacobs underneath. He's inside the 20 for first down. The slot receiver is the guy that's the most difficult one to cover because it's almost impossible to jam it.
And they had Marshall had Corey Tyndall over there in coverage, and this is just a slant to Jacobs. A wonderful throw by Brown on time, and Jacobs got Tyndall to turn just slightly.
So far, this has been better than a 7-minute drive This will be the 16th play. C.J. Brown on the slant. Down to the 2-yard line. Perfect throw to Nigel King.
A corner blitz came by Marshall. C.J. Brown saw it, knew that that side was one-on-one. And King, a young man with good size at 6'3", 210 pounds, does a wonderful job putting his body between the defender. But that was a really good read by C.J. Brown.
And a nice throw. And he's got Maryland on the doorstep at the end of the third quarter. Terps trail 17-13 here at the Military Bowl. Welcome back to the Military Bowl, presented by Northrop Grumman. We're at beautiful Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium in Annapolis, Maryland, built to honor the war dead from the Navy and Marine Corps, and a great setting for the Military Bowl. Maryland knocking on the door from the Marshall 2-yard line. 1st and goal. Marshall running a player on late. Ross after the play fake by Brown, the receiver wide open, and it's Steinbach for the touchdown. That's such a great play on the goal line because the defense has to sell out to stop the run.
And Marshall was short a defensive lineman. Looked like Steve Dillon was coming in late, didn't know he was supposed to be on there, and then everybody's a little confused, and Steinbach sneaks out from his right tight end positions wide open.
A 99.5-yard drive for Maryland. Very impressive. 17 plays, almost 8 minutes off the clock. And the point after gives the Terps a 3-point lead over the Thundering Herd. They were also 2 for 2 on 4th down on that drive. Huge plays. So how does Marshall respond?
Well, they're starting to cool down a little bit, so see if they've got their ladder going after that long drive.
Reeves across the 20, has a seam. Another great cut by Reeves, takes it out to the 38-yard line. Nice return by DeAndre Reeves.
Well, we've seen a couple of kicks. We saw William Likely from Maryland almost pop one earlier. Both of these teams have exceptional speed. It was amazing when we were talking to the Maryland coaches. Of course, this is a team, Maryland, that played both Florida State and Clemson. And they said that while Marshall doesn't quite have the speed of Florida State or Clemson, they rival them, and that's a mouthful.
Taliaferro off the left side across the 40. Stopped by Andre Monroe. The nose tackle has been very active today, number 93. Got 8.5 sacks this year from a nose spot.
And Andre Monroe, imagine this. Guess what happened to him last year? Blew his knee out. Yeah, missed all of last year, so he was part of that deal.
2nd and 12 for Cato, who launches one. And getting a piece of it was Schuler, but he was double covered. Likely was right there with him. That is just trust between Cato and Schuler. Have been doing it since grade school, making plays like that. But you throw into double coverage, your odds go way down.
And watch Likely, a young man that this staff from Maryland is so excited about. Excellent job. Found the ball, went up, made a nice play on it. Eyes were on it the whole way. Good body control. I can see why they like this young guy.
Likely at 5'9", Schuler at 5'7". And Schuler got the better, or Likely got the better of Schuler. Cato. At the last minute, throws downfield complete. Again, he finds Wilkins. That's about the 3rd time he has scrambled and found Craig Wilkins, the 6-foot junior.
And which way does the quarterback roll when the pocket breaks down? To his right, as Whitfield came off the end, beating the right tackle Niemeyer. That was the one thing that Brian Stewart, the defense coordinator, did not want to see, is Cato move to his right and get off script. Those are the plays that you feel like you've got it beat, and he beats you.
Cato again, this time to Hoskins, the tight end. 6 straight times Marshall has moved into Maryland territory and have yet to get any points out of it. They have not scored since the 9:27 mark of the second quarter. And Ed, back to echo your point, they have spent so much time in here, you just get the feeling that Marshall's ahead by a couple of touchdowns, when in reality they're down by 3.
But I think the one thing that Maryland has done is they've not let the ball go over their head, so they're making Marshall, who loves to throw the ball downfield, get into the short field. Well, now you don't have as much vertical stretch. Look how many people Maryland has around the line of scrimmage now.
Cato floats one for Hoskins. He had to turn the other way, and when he turned back, the ball had already gone by him.
Boy, they had exactly what they wanted. Anthony Nixon, the safety, was up, working one-on-one on Hoskins.
Big third down here. If you don't get it, it's a reasonably makeable field goal range. The green line is where we think the outside range would be, so they're well within that already. Blitz coming. They pick it up, the pass to the outside to Schuler. Schuler had the first down, appeared to go back on his own. It'll be interesting to see how much forward progress they give him.
Boy, they gave him a lot. They gave him a great spot. Because I'm with you, Mike. Watch after Schuler makes the catch. Likely giving a little bit of cushion there. Right here, he comes backwards. It's right on the line. I think ultimately it would have been a first down, but you got about a half-yard better spot. Again, Maryland is just, they want Marshall to earn it. As it gets more crowded, their passing game gets more difficult.
Cato again. This time he gets it to Devon Smith. I think they were really lucky on that spot.
I think it probably would have been right at the sticks there. But for Brian Stewart, as bad as they've played in the secondary at times today, they have really locked down, and it's because Marshall, without that vertical stretch now, just too many bodies.
Talaferro, touchdown Marshall. They have been so good running him up the middle in this situation, in this part of the field, and Marshall responds immediately to Maryland regaining the lead. They were certainly focused on that drive.
Maryland had the body there, just a missed tackle. I believe that was Alex Twine who came through at the line of scrimmage, and instead of making the tackle and pushing it to fourth down, Marshall gets the score.
9 plays, 63 yards. It took only 2 minutes and 51 seconds for the Thundering Herd to regain the lead here at the Military Bowl. They're up 24-20. Talaferro with another touchdown run that has the Thundering Herd on top 24-20 as they go for their 10th victory. 2013 campaign. What a milestone that would be. C.J. Brown has other ideas for the Terps. Likely waits at the goal line. And he'll take it from there. '17-yard line and no more. It looked like they had a trick play set up on that kickoff and decided against it.
Looked like they were setting up the throwback, but that was unfortunately no one blocked for Likely, so he didn't have a chance to set up a throwback.
They'll spot it at the 16, and C.J. Brown will start from there. Keeper cuts it back across the 20, dives out to the 23. Here's Janine.
Well, guys, after Maryland's 99-yard touchdown drive in their last series, Marshall defensive coordinator Chuck Heater gathered his entire defense, the first time I've seen him do this all day, and he started yelling at them about mental errors and getting their minds in the game and not leaving tight ends unblocked. And freshman linebacker Stephen Houston bore the brunt of it, after which the entire defense was patting him on the back and cheering and clapping and boosting him up.
All right, Janine, they need to be fired up the rest of this quarter. They only lead by 4. Ross to the outside. And Ross pulled down. Nice solid tackle by Neville Hewitt.
And the Marshall sideline was awfully excited by that tackle from Hewitt, although it picks up the first down. And now Chuck Heater's defense, they've got to be getting a little tuckered here. That last drive, 99.5 yards, is no joke for as long as Maryland took. And I know they got excited about a sideline tackle there, but that's another first down in Maryland.
Brown, a little swing. Ross almost made a great catch. Then it bounced out of his hands. Couldn't get it the second time. Gary Thompson putting on pressure. Time of possession, Maryland has controlled it in the second half after winning by about 4 minutes in the first. Second and 10. Brown has Ross with him to the left in the backfield. Looking for King underneath and found him. King broke a tackle, then lost a shoe and crossed the 30 to about the 31. Darryl Roberts has made some really good plays for Marshall, was in on the stop.
And Nigel King, not a guy you'd want to have to come off on this third down. A guy who's coming on with some size. And here you're at that 3rd and 6. Remember the last time they ran Laverne Jacobs, they ran a slant on that 4th and 6. Jacobs now to the bottom of your screen. And up to the top is Malcolm Comer. This would be the area where you'd look for that slant. But the corner set way inside, the nickelback way inside that slot.
Now they'll send him in motion, and C.J. Brown on the keeper avoids one tackle, tries to extend his arms, got to about the 35-yard line. He's going to be short.
Well, the pulling offensive lineman got knocked off of his track. This play was really close to going the distance, but C.J. Brown could not get going around that offensive lineman, and it looked to me like when he stretched the ball, he got a bit more than this spot.
It was tough to tell. He may have been out of bounds before he got his arm extended. And now Renfro will punt. High, short kick. Fair catch made at the 30 by Devon Smith. 34-yard kick. Pretty good field position. Marshall starts with 9:42 left in the game and a 4-point lead. A new setting for the Military Bowl, and it seems to be perfect. Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium here in Annapolis. The game had been played since its inception at RFK, and I think this is a lot better. The kids get a chance to tour D.C. and then come up here the day before the game and enjoy Annapolis, which is as nice a little city as you will ever find. If you actually look at what Maryland has done the last 2 years with all those injuries, and you're thinking of firing Randy Edsall, you got to think about giving him a raise instead. Cato scrambling and swallowed up at the 31-yard line.
Well, you were mentioning Randy Edsall last night in our production meeting. We were talking about Randy Edsall in this article that had been written. When we were coming to this game, I thought, if anything, Maryland should be worried about teams trying to steal this guy. I mean, what he did at UConn and what he's gotten through at Maryland, and now taking Maryland into the Big Ten, and I think we'll be very competitive. We did some Big Ten games this year. I think Maryland with this team is going to compete right away.
Terps trying to force a 3 and out, but they can't because Gator Hoskins is there again. And a perfectly thrown ball from Cato for Hoskins' 4th catch. He's out of Gainesville, Florida.
Hoskins just goes right down the middle. The safety, number 20, Anthony Nixon, has to get some depth and can't come back until late.
Remy Watson has checked into tailback. He ran well in the first half and takes it to the Maryland 45 on this. The Terps have all 3 of their timeouts left.
And this is somewhere because Maryland now has to put people around the line of scrimmage. They cannot let 4 and 5 yards per run happen.
They have lived in Maryland territory, and yet only 24 points to show for it.
But for Maryland, obviously, you got to start stripping the ball out. But the one thing you have to be very careful about, as aggressive as you want to be when the guy has the ball, watch the play fake and something going over your head.
Watson burrows straight ahead. First down at the 35. The clock will stop temporarily. Don't have to go too much further to be in field goal range.
And I think if you're Marshall, now this is a hurry-up offense. They do like to go with pace. But I think you've got to start thinking about working that play clock down. Here, 20 seconds. I think you want to be inside of 8 or 7 seconds when you snap this ball every time if you're Marshall. You're up 4.
Watson again. This time hit high and dragged down, may lose a yard. And again, Monroe, the nose man, outstanding game defensively. Approaching the 4.5-minute mark.
Let's see what Marshall does here with that play clock. Of course, they go up, and a lot of teams do this. They fake the snap so they can see what the defense is doing, then go back. But let's watch right here. This is that play clock. Let's see how much they're eating away, try to milk this down.
Need about another 10 yards to think about Haig. Cato pressured and throws it to the sideline, incomplete. That'll stop the clock. 4:05 left to go. So I think the #1 focus Marshall has to have is getting that first down rather than burning the clock right now. They need to keep the ball. And that'll burn plenty of clock.
And Justin Haig, about their kicker, about the 25-yard line is his range. So they're well outside of that. They do have Amaretto Curry, who would try longer field goals, but I don't think Marshall's going to be comfortable kicking this ball anywhere near here.
Cato on 3rd and long. Down the middle, complete to Hoskins. Inside the 20, to the 15, still on his feet inside the 10. 1st and goal, thundering herd. What a pass by Cato. What an effort by Hoskins.
Hoskins, a guy who played quarterback and free safety in high school, ran right at the safety Anthony Nixon in coverage, broke off and almost goes in for the score. And now Maryland taking a timeout to regroup. And for Maryland, the question becomes, with 3:47 left, do you let Marshall score? When you're down 2 scores, if Marshall starts to eat the clock here, eat the clock here, eat the clock here, and go up 2 scores,
I think that's why they have used the timeout. They have decided to take their stand here, use their timeout, hope to hold them to a field goal. If you give up the touchdown, it's probably lost anyway. 2 programs making their BCS debut New Year's Day. Bryce Petty leads #6 Baylor's nation-leading offense into the desert against #15 Central Florida, led by quarterback Blake Bortles. The Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, New Year's Day at 8:30 p.m. on ESPN. So you've used 1 timeout, you've got 2 left. So Marshall's not going to be able to run, say, more than a minute's worth of clock, a minute 15. If they have to get the field goal, then you've got plenty of time left.
Yeah. My worry would be about Maryland, though, if you eat up a minute, minute and a half here, then give up the touchdown, you have enough time to overcome 2 scores.
No. Cato floats it for the end zone, touchdown to Hoskins. What a great play call. I mean, who in this building would believe you would throw it on 1st and goal when the idea is you run the ball, take time off the clock, force Maryland to call a timeout? What a great play call, and then they executed it perfectly. Don't you think this has become too much of the no fun zone?
Yeah, a bit.
But what a play by Cato, what a play by Hoskins, and whoever made this call, this was a brilliant call.
And Hoskins, just a guy who you have a safety in coverage. Once again, you had Anthony Nixon there in coverage, a guy who's been battling a bit of a toe injury. But we've seen time and time again the safeties cannot cover him one-on-one, and you say, well, why don't you have double coverage? You can't double cover everybody the way Marshall spreads the field. You pick Schuler, you pick Hoskins. They've been going to Devin Smith. It's impossible to choose if you're Maryland when you're spread like that who to double.
Schuler's had a huge game as we expected. The 3 Marshall tight ends, including Hoskins, have 9 catches for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And I am absolutely sold on on Rakeem Cato. I think there are some things that he needs to work on going into his senior year. In the pocket, some of the things he does where he bails a little too early. But 28 of 44, 337, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Pretty good. And he's shown us great touch on several passes. He's shown us the ability to throw from one side of the field to the other sideline and on a line. So he's shown us a lot of quarterback. Likely from the 21. They could use a huge return from him. He's capable spinning out of tackles across the 40. Let's check in with Reese Davis. Reese?
Mike, coming up just as soon as you guys are done, Jerome Smith and Syracuse will take on Minnesota in the Texas Bowl. You recall last year it was the Syracuse running game. Ran wild their bowl victory against West Virginia, the Pinstripe Bowl. See if they can do it to a much improved Golden Gopher run defense.
All right, Reese will stand by for that. 3:34 to go. Terps down by now 2 scores. Two timeouts and 3:34 left for Maryland. 2-man rush. And pressure anyway. Now Brown will keep it and get out of bounds. Rouse had a thought of drilling him and then decided better, said I'll just grab him and hold him up.
No, I loved your call that it was a 2-man rush.
Yeah.
You're down, you're up 2 scores with 3:25 left. Chuck Heater is saying the only way we lose is if we give up a big touchdown right now. If Maryland picks up 25 or 30 yards, they'll be in field goal range. He'll be okay with that. But he doesn't want one going long here. And then an onside kick and see what happens.
Brown throws it up for grabs. It's picked off. A.J. Leggett with his 4th interception of the season, and that could do it. And Brown slow to get up. That is the first turnover of this ball game, and he just threw it up for Adetawa into double coverage.
It looked like Brown was heaving this because he felt like they needed it all. Takes a shot right to the midsection, but he was looking this way, and you could tell right from the start that there was going to be safety help to Adetawa's side. Adetawa, the guy who has been able to stretch the field for Maryland, averaging almost 19 yards a catch. So Marshall clearly wanting to defend him. Not much of a hit there. I wonder if it was his hand maybe that got caught in between, but that's a throw you'd want to have back. No reason to try to get it all right there. Down 2 scores, just over 3 minutes and 2 timeouts. You weren't out of the ball game just yet.
Taliaferro will take it up to the 28.
And now Marshall does need a first down. They cannot run this clock out completely.
10-win season outside of the conference championship game against Rice, where they fell flat by their own admission. This team had a chance to win 13 of 14 games this year. It's a heck of a season.
And they only lose 4 or 5 players.
Yes.
We were talking about their depth chart, and they were laughing at how young they were and how far they've come. So imagine the additional practices playing against good competition in Maryland. How does this set Marshall up for next year?
And Doc Holliday knew it would take time, and he has built this program beautifully. Let's go to Janine Edwards.
Well, guys, one of the most active and most important players on this Maryland sideline today has been a guy that wasn't even playing. Injured cornerback Dexter McDougal has missed most of the season with a shoulder injury. But Randy Edsall has been so moved by the way he's contributed to the team, and he's contributed all day today, coaching his teammates up throughout this entire game. But Edsall said on the morning of the team banquet last week, he decided to create an award for McDougal to honor his work ethic, his unselfish nature, the way he has instilled confidence in his teammates despite being able to play. He created the Dexter McDougal Ultimate Team Player Award, and he kept it a secret from everyone, including McDougal, who said he was so moved and touched by the honor and received a standing ovation.
I mean, Janine, that's a great story. How many kids, knowing they're hurt and are going to be out for the rest of the year, never miss a practice, never miss a meeting? They're there for every road game. I mean, he was the ultimate team player. That's a great move by Randy Edsall.
Brian Stewart, the defensive coordinator, who also coaches the secondary, is blown away at how often McDougal was around.
Quarterback draw, and he was trying to coach up some of his teammates earlier in this game, and they're going to listen because he was a terrific player.
That was when Brian Stewart said we lost this guy. Not only did we lose a guy who was playing some of his very best ball, there he's coaching up William Likely, one of the replacements, a true freshman who's played well. But McDougal, Brian Stewart said it was really stunning to lose this young man, not just because he was playing at a high level, but because he was such a leader. And up steps Randy Edsall. He said, well, I'm the head coach. It's still my team. I'm going to create an award. And he told us, he said, I wouldn't have felt right had I not honored this young man and his commitment to this team at the end of the season.
Will the Terps come after him? They do. They try to put pressure on Williams, but he gets out of there. Williams done a great job as the kicker for Marshall today. Gets it out 41 yards to the 27. 2nd and 10 for Brown. Two-man rush. Brown steps up, throws underneath, and throws behind Brandon Ross, his intended receiver. Ran a little circle route out of the backfield.
Well, we were talking about Randy Edsall and the job he's done in the last 2 years going into the Big Ten East next year. And I think that over the long term, I think Maryland's going to be able to compete in the Big Ten. I know that they're in the same side as Michigan, Ohio State, and those clubs, but I think Maryland will bring a little something different. I think we'll be able to start bringing some kids from the Mid-Atlantic region to Maryland because they want to compete in the Big Ten.
Brown throws, but that's going to be short of a first down to Jacobs, and he's mugged.
You gotta be careful if you're Marshall. A lot of guys going in there throwing elbows. And a little careful as Gator Hoskins. He wants all he wants done.
He's saying, I'm done, man. I've played really well tonight. I'm cold, I'm done.
I will say there is something to taking those shoulder pads off for the last time in the year.
7 catches for 100 yards for Hoskins. Another brilliant game for him. And that one's dropped. Or rather for Jacobs, excuse me. And Maryland will turn it over on downs with 50 seconds left in the game and no timeouts, no way to stop the clock.
But just to finish up with Maryland moving into the Big Ten, of course, that didn't sit well with a lot of Maryland fans, longtime ACC, original members of the ACC. It seems like a geographic bad choice, and I think for their Olympic sports, in my opinion, I do think it was a long-term bad decision to go into the Big Ten. However, I think Randy Edsall and the way he builds a team and what they're starting to sell to kids in the Northern Virginia, D.C. area is, okay, you can go play in the ACC and it's a good league, but if you come with us, you get to play against teams like Michigan, Ohio State. And I think in talking to Randy Edsall, they're starting to be able to sell that to some of their recruits. So I think football-wise, I think Maryland's going to do fine in the Big Ten. I think it's the other sports that will suffer.
Well, we both know a lot of Maryland alumni, and there was great outrage when that decision was announced. They felt it wasn't vetted very well before it was announced. Some of that may have muted since then, but still a lot of people upset about the move at all.
But just speaking about football, I think Maryland will do well. And how about for Marshall? Double their win total from 2012. And if you want a name to start talking about dark horses for the Heisman Trophy, you have to keep Rakeem Cato in there as he hands Doc Holliday a game ball.
They've really grown this program together. And Marshall with a big win today in the Military Bowl. It'll be a nice trip back to Huntington, West Virginia. Once again, our final score, Marshall 31, Maryland 20. And now we send you to Houston.